The mud clung to my jeans like a second skin, cold and heavy, as I sprawled in the damp pasture, my fingers wrapped tight around a water cannon with enough force to topple a grown man. Dawn's faint light crept over the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold, but my eyes were locked on a drone slicing through the air, a metallic predator, its low hum taunting me as it sent my cattle thundering in panic. If anyone had seen me then, soaked to the bone, aiming a high-pressure hose at a buzzing gadget, they'd have thought I'd lost my mind, a rancher turned vigilante in some absurd western flick. But this was no joke. That drone, piloted by Margaret, the HOA's self-appointed queen, had crossed a line, and I was done playing nice. As I squeezed the trigger, unleashing a roaring geyser into the sky, one thought burned in my mind: Saw, this is my land, and I'm taking it back. Saw. It all started a month ago, under a sunrise so gentle it felt like the world was holding its breath. I was brushing down the horses, the scent of hay and leather grounding me, when a harsh, grating buzz shattered the peace like a chainsaw ripping through a prayer. I squinted at the sky and saw it, a sleek silver drone darting between the pines at the edge of my pasture. At first I figured it was some kid's toy, a one-off nuisance. But it came back. Every morning, without fail, it swooped lower, hovering over my barns, buzzing the cattle pens. It spooked the horses so bad one reared and nearly splintered a fence post. What began as an irritation grew into a menace, and I wasn't about to let it fester. I tried the civilized route. Polished my boots, squared my shoulders, and marched into the HOA meeting, hoping a calm word might settle things. My ranch sits just outside their jurisdiction, but I thought Margaret, who ruled the association like a warlord, might listen. Big mistake. Before I could get a sentence out, she cut me off, her voice sharp as barbed wire. Drones uphold community standards, she snapped, her lips curling into a smirk that dared me to push back. If you've got nothing to hide, why complain? Her dismissal lit a fuse in me, but I swallowed my rage and walked out, vowing to handle this my way. Things spiraled fast. My neighbor, Carl, caught me at the feed store, his voice low as he shared what he'd overheard at the community center. Margaret was bragging about her surveillance network, using the drone to snoop on properties, hunting for anything she could weaponize: painted sheds, old trucks, dirt paths that clashed with her sterile suburban Shaun. She wanted to strangle our rural haven with her rules. I told myself to stay calm. It was just a drone, right? But it didn't stop. It buzzed our family cookouts, lingered over my wife's garden, even dipped low near the well where my daughter played. Then came the morning it swooped so close to a newborn calf it stumbled, nearly snapping its leg. I stood in the field, heart pounding, watching that machine zip away, and knew I'd reached my limit. That night, I sat on the porch with my buddy Hank, nursing a glass of iced tea, my mind churning. We tossed around ideas: cameras, police reports, warning signs. Then Hank grinned, a glint of mischief in his eyes. Water cannon, he said. I laughed, thinking he was pulling my leg, but he was dead serious. He described the cannons they used at the county fair: powerful, precise, legal, and non-lethal. The idea was crazy, but it sparked something in me. By morning, I was in town, renting the biggest cannon I could find, my blood thrumming with a plan to end Margaret's tyranny. The next day, I set the trap. In the southern pasture, where the drone lingered longest, I'd built a decoy zone, a deliberate mess to lure her in. Scattered tires, rusty tools, an overturned trough. It was a calculated eyesore designed to draw her camera. I hid the cannon under a pile of hay bales, its nozzle barely peeking out. To cover my bases, I dug into drone laws, learning that harassing livestock or invading privacy could land an operator in hot water, especially without FAA registration. Knowledge was my shield, the cannon my spear. I was ready for battle. Hank came over to help me practice. Our first shots were a disaster. One blast hit me square in the chest, sending my hat flying, while another rattled the barn so hard the weather vanes spun. Hank doubled over laughing, and I couldn't help but grin, dripping like a drowned rat. But we got the hang of it. tweaking the aim and pressure until I could hit a balloon at 20 yards with one shot. As the sun sank, painting the sky in fiery hues, a surge of confidence settled in my bones. Margaret's drone was about to meet its match. Sleep didn't come that night. Every creak of the house had me sitting up, ears straining for that cursed buzz. At dawn, I was ready, thermos of coffee in hand, boots laced tight, heart hammering like a war drum. I checked the cannon, secured its base, and took cover behind an oak, binoculars in hand. To bait the trap, I cranked the garage speakers, letting music blare to make it seem I was distracted, oblivious to my sloppy ranch. Time dragged. Doubts crept in. Had Margaret caught on? Was this too far? Then I heard it, that infuriating whine, growing louder. Through the binoculars, I spotted the drone, its camera glinting like a viper's eye, swooping in from the east. I crouched low, adrenaline surging, waiting for the perfect moment. The drone circled the decoy zone, hovering over the trough, then dipped closer, greedy for footage to fuel Margaret's next complaint. My grip tightened on the trigger, my breath short and sharp. Saw, wait for it, saw, I whispered. It drifted nearer, rotors whining, camera gleaming. Saw now. Saw. The cannon roared to life with a thunderous whoosh, unleashing a jet of water that slammed the drone like a tidal wave. It spun wildly, a rotor snapping, plastic shards flying. It wobbled, fighting to stay aloft, then crashed into the pig pen with a wet, glorious splat. Silence fell, broken only by Hank's wild whoop echoing across the field. I tossed my hat skyward, laughter bursting free, weeks of rage dissolving in that perfect moment. The pigs were already nosing the wreckage, snorting as if mocking Margaret's defeat. But the Tory was short-lived. Tires screeched on gravel, and Margaret's SUV tore up the road, dust billowing like a storm. She leapt out, heels sinking into the dirt, her face a mask of fury as she screamed about lawsuits, vandalism, and jail. Her words were a torrent: property damage, criminal acts, her voice shrill enough to shatter glass. I leaned against the fence, calm as a summer breeze, letting her rage burn out. When she paused, gasping, I struck. Her drone was trespassing, endangering my livestock, invading my family's privacy and, by the way, lacked FAA registration, a federal offense. I offered her a glass of water, my tone polite but laced with steel. She sputtered, red-faced, and dialed the sheriff. Deputy Larson arrived, his patrol truck kicking up dust. Margaret launched into a melodramatic tale, painting herself as a victim of a lawless rancher. Larson listened, then turned to me. I handed over my EVY Denke, photos of the drone, logs of its flyovers, printed FAA regulations. He walked to the pig pen, inspecting the muddy wreckage, noting the missing registration. When he returned, his voice was firm. Margaret's drone was illegal. Her actions were potentially criminal. My cannon stunt was questionable, but her harassment was undeniable. The case would go to the prosecutor, but Margaret was the one in trouble. She erupted, accusing Larson of corruption, vowing to sue the county. He stayed calm, noting her threats and ordering her off my land or face arrest. Watching her stomp to her SUV, nearly skidding off the road in her haste, was sweeter than any whiskey. The town buzzed with the news. By morning, the diner was alive with laughter: farmers, shopkeepers, even kids swapping tales of Margaret's drone meeting its muddy end. Some called me a hero, dropping off pies and fresh eggs at the ranch. I smiled and thanked them, but I knew Margaret wouldn't slink away quietly. At the next HOA meeting, she doubled down, pushing absurd rules against unauthorized projectiles, and weeping about her persecution. Most board members looked mortified, but her loyalists clapped like trained seals. I stayed clear, tending my ranch, keeping my records airtight for her INEVY table counterattack. The final blow came weeks later. Larson stopped by, a grin on his face and a folder in hand. The FAA had investigated. Margaret's drone was illegally modified, unregistered, and a violation of airspace laws. She faced fines that could cripple a small town, plus lawsuits from others she'd spied on. She tried denying it was hers, but receipts and her own social media posts boasting about her patrols nailed her. The HOA board, fed up with her chaos, moved to oust her. At a packed town hall, residents unleashed years of grievances, fines for wildflowers, secret photos, harassment over mailbox colors. The vote to remove Margaret was unanimous. She stood speechless, then fled, the doors slamming like a judge's gavel. Margaret's house hit the market, but no one wanted the drone tyrant's property. It sat, overgrown and abandoned, until foreclosure claimed it'd been too busy suing to pay her mortgage. Meanwhile, the ranch thrived. Neighbors painted barns freely, kids played without fear, and a fall festival erupted, unburdened by Margaret's rules. I set up a drone-free demo, letting kids blast targets with the cannon. Even Larson took a turn, chuckling. One day, I bought a strip of land Margaret had misused as her garden, tipping my hat to it as I rode by, not out of spite, but as a farewell to her reign. At the festival, we raised a drone-free zone banner, grilling steaks and laughing under a starlit sky. Margaret's tyranny had shown us how fragile freedom is, how one person's obsession can choke a community. But we'd fought back, not with malice, but with grit, preparation, and a perfectly aimed blast of water. As I sat by the fire, cider warming my hands, I knew we'd face whatever came next, together, fierce, free, and unafraid. Out here, we don't bow to bullies. We stand our ground. And if a water cannon's part of the lesson, so be it.